Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. I think I've covered just about every emotion under the sun in these intros this season, but being just genuinely happy isn't one that's happened too often. But it is tonight. Nottingham Forest beat Fenerbahce 3-0 in Vitor Pereira's first game in charge. Dominant performance in the Europa League. Sets up really nicely for the second leg and hopefully sets up really nicely for the relegation run in the Premier League as well. So really looking forward to this one in the company of, first of all, Mark Sutherns. Mark, good evening. How are you?
I'm delighted. I thought that was a masterful performance away from home. Just so much better than I could have expected. I was optimistic that we'd lift the gloom and show bravery, and we did exactly that. And we deserved the result. We deserved the performance, and now we can take a great deal of confidence into Sunday and some momentum at last. It just felt like the gloom had lifted. The players have found their freedom, and the quality that we knew we had was on show.
Certainly was. Michael Temple, how are you?
Yeah, I feel great. Where did that come from? Breaks are off. I just feel like he sent them out of a brief to express themselves and be free. And our best players repaid him in spades.
Lewis McGugan, great to have you back on, especially in such circumstances. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. And like I said, I always try and like to do these post matches, and you hope for a good result. But yeah, tonight you can't really ask for much more than that. So really happy to be here.
Great to have you with us. We'll ask you about the tactical side a bit, Lewis, and the messaging. But Temps, just kick us off more, expanding on just the general thoughts of maybe what you expected and maybe what you saw.
Just dominated from gun to tape. I think the intensity from minute one was there. Even before we scored, you could see where the balance of power was in the game. Really pleased that he picked the best available side, didn't overthink it, and then empowered them to go out and play, allowed our attacking players to be free to take risks on the ball, to try things. Some of the one touch and two touch would have carved up far better teams than Fenerbahce, who were slightly disappointing, but they needed to be put to the sword. The players that we've all been calling on to step up did that. And you have to think, if this is the start of a new manager bounce, and this is Vitor Pereira's reputed style of going in and making an immediate impact by empowering good players to play, then we've got very little to worry about between now and the end of the season. Sounds like a bit of a knee-jerk reaction, having seen one game, but that was our best performance in Europe by some margin. I think he's got an absolute clarity already on who his best players are, and he's got a blueprint now which they can believe in. Empower our better players to play, take some risks with the ball, have everyone buy into a work rate and a style that they can get behind, and we can be a match for any team that we play.
Yeah, I think that's the temptation, Mark, isn't it? Like, oh, everything's sorted now, we're going to be great. In the back of my mind, we're never going to have a Premier League game that easy. I thought Fenerbahce were way worse than I thought, but in terms of what we could have done tonight and to set us up for what's to come, we couldn't have done any more, could we, as a collective and as an individual manager?
No, I think the key is the mindset. He talked a lot about in the pre-match about playing without fear, playing with quality, and playing with positivity that we were going to go there to win. And that was clear from the first whistle. We took control of the game. We were brave on the ball. There was movement. There was passing lanes. There was confidence flowing. And it looked like only a matter of time before we opened them up. And, you know, I think the goal epitomised, the first goal epitomised it. You know, the freedom for Murillo to just, I'm just going to keep going. We've seen him do it before, but we haven't seen enough of it. You know, I think this season he's been somewhat dulled by injuries, but also I think tactically as well. I think tonight he was allowed to do that and get forward and score that goal. But I think we said it, didn't we? I didn't think Pereira had to come in and change too much. I don't think there was too much on show tactically that was different. I think the difference was just mindset. When you send a team in without fear of the opponent, knowing that they're the better side, technically better footballers, we've got more quality. When you instill that positivity, you get that kind of performance. When you go away from home and you set up in a negative way and set a negative mindset that we just need to hold on for a draw and snatch a 1-0, you get a different result. And I think all that Pereira did was just instill that confidence and that mindset. And that's all our players needed to unlock that quality that we saw tonight.
Did you see anything particularly tactical, Lewis, that he did different, or was it purely mindset? The formation was the same, the personnel were the same. So what changed for you?
Yeah, I felt like he kept a lot of things the same as Mark's point made. I think it's very hard when you come into a new job. He hasn't had a lot of time with them. So I think when you come in and you have a game so quick and you haven't got that time on the training pitch, I think it's very important. It's the message that you send, and that message will come with the words that he uses in his meetings along with his staff. It's around the training ground. In them kind of early days, what kind of atmosphere are you trying to set? So you can't really do a lot on the training ground, but you can do a lot with the messages and the tone and the words you're using. And I think that was kind of probably evident that you've seen it. I think tactically, there was a little tweak. I don't know if people seen where the midfield, I felt that Sangara played as a single pivot and kind of Anderson and more Gibbs-White played as 2/8s, where normally we haven't really seen that. And I think what that did, I think it allowed Sangari to play in a role that really suits him. I think when he plays with the ball, I think when he plays around bodies, I think that's where potentially he gets into trouble. So I think when he plays in that single pivot, a lot of the time he gets the ball, he can have kind of 2, maximum 3 touches and get the ball and release it. I think what it allows, especially Morgan to do, he picks up pockets kind of, it makes the pitch a little bit bigger. So instead of having them moments where he's in them pockets in behind from a central position, he's getting them a little bit from a wider area, which then he's pulling players out, he's pulling defenders out into areas that they don't want to go. And I think what you then get the following from that is a lot of kind of our fluidity and our runs, wingers kind of from out to in, which is then coming, Jesus coming as kind of the focal point, being that face on what's going on behind him. So I think there was a lot of little tweaks in there. Personnel, when you look at the team, not a lot of changes, but I think there was little things in there, a mindset change. And I think the real big thing for me, when you look at especially that first half, was explosiveness, was kind of front foot. And we're talking about a Fenerbahce team that has a lot of good players on paper, but there's a kind of a reason why they're all now playing in the Turkish league, and they're coming to the end of what they've all had really fantastic careers, but they're coming to the end of it. And I think what we then did, the quickness, the sharpness, the kind of explosiveness, the movements, I just think they couldn't live with that.
Yeah, I thought they were a bit, kind of second-rate Harlem Globetrotters a little bit. I was surprised by what I saw from them. Just a couple of things that, picking up on what Lewis said there, Tam, talking about Sangare, there was a bit where he had 2 men closing him down, and I think under the previous manager, he would have hooked that long. He nutmegged one and went through one and set up an attack, and that set a bit of a tone. And then the second goal, well, obviously we'll talk about Murillo's goal for what he did, but the second goal, Hutchinson didn't put a cross in the box. He pulled a low cross back, and Nico had a shot, and we scored from the corner, which was a nice thing as well. So it was just much more positivity, wasn't it?
Yeah, on Sangare, totally agree with what Lewis said about him screening the back four without the need of support from Anderson and Gibbs-White, allowing them to be that little bit further up. But he wasn't just hook it and play a channel ball kind of 6, was he? He was Cruyff in between 2 pressing midfielders and coming out of the ball intact. He is very assured on the ball. We've seen that this season from Sangare. He's even having missed the time he did through the Nations. He's been a very assured presence when he's had a run of games in the side. And I think that's the level of dynamism you need from a commanding 6 in this division. It's not enough just to stop goals. You have to launch attacks, have that range of passing, and that ability to have the ball in the cul-de-sac and come out of it with options. And he just looked like he had that extra half second of time today. He was so assured under pressure and barely put a foot wrong. He did misplace a pass in the second half, which put us under a bit of pressure. But first half, I thought he was pretty flawless. And yeah, that's the difference, right? But playing 2 6s and an 8 or a 6 and 2 8s is the difference between being a front foot team, being able to get your best players on the ball between the lines, rather than to come and having to come really, really deep and play that deep lying playmaker position and try and force longer passes or try and beat a man before you find the ball. And that's why we've got on top of them so often today in possession. And then when we've lost it, we've turned them over in the final third. And yeah, look, I'll take the point. It's pretty prevalent in the comments. Fenerbahce were poor, but they needed beating. It's an intimidating atmosphere. The players have contended with a lot this week in having a new voice in the changing room. But that's as good a start as he could have made. And Sangare was a big reason for that.
I'll go to Mark on one side. I just want to ask one about the atmosphere because I don't forget. Do you think that atmosphere would have been intimidating for them, Lewis? Because it didn't show all, did it? It was very loud coming through, and Steve Battlemuch, who's a podcast regular, was in there, said it was very loud until we went 2-0 up, and that really shut them all up.
Yeah, of course. I've never been fortunate enough to play away in Europe, but again, I've played in quite big games in stadiums that you would say is quite hostile. And I think the big thing about that is what Nottingham Forest did tonight is you have to show a little bit of arrogance, and the good arrogance. You have to go in there. You have to be on the front foot. You have to take the ball. You have to be brave. And I think the first kind of 10 minutes we did that in abundance. We was brave. We moved the ball. And what you're then slowly trying to do is you're slowly trying to kind of calm the crowd, quieten the crowd, and kind of show what you're about. And then you kind of build yourself into the game. Like I said, the start that we made, where we probably look at other games where we've put ourselves under the pressure, I think we've flipped it completely tonight. And I think the start we made was fantastic. But again, you have to do that in them environments and that atmosphere. And you have to show that courage.
Just before Paulie's done a good job here. Do say 767 people with us, so do hit like. That'd be fantastic. He's doing a better job than I am. We'll go all the way back to team selection, Mark. There was a lot of debate around it. How big do you go? What do you take out of it in terms of risking a defeat and tiredness for Liverpool? But it feels like this has worked out perfectly, and Pereira's vindicated completely, isn't he? He's able to hook players after an hour as well, big players.
Yeah, but you can only do that if you go into the game with a positive mindset. Because if you go in negative, where we're going to sit back and try and nick a goal, it could have been 0-0 after 80 minutes, and we can't make changes. So if you go in, right, we're gonna take command of this game. We're going to create opportunities. We're going to score goals, and then when we've got those goals, I'll make changes. Now, you can only put a strong team out initially if you also couple it with that kind of plan. And we haven't done that often enough away from home in Europe. We've either played with a weakened team, or when we have played a stronger, we just haven't put on a performance. And tonight was perfect. Yeah, I mean, that would have been the game plan. The game plan would have been get a couple of goals, get in a commanding position, kill the game off, and then I can make some changes. And that's exactly what he did. But it's all about that positivity from the off, that bravery on the ball. And just going back to what Lewis said, it was tweaks, but I think what he did was he got hold of the basic three players who can make a difference in our team: Sangare, Anderson and Gibbs-White. And these are the players that we've been crying out for, and we've been saying they've been regressing, not necessarily as individuals, but the way they link up, the way they play, the fact we've not been playing the ball through the middle enough. We've been just playing the ball out wide at every opportunity, not playing through those three quality players. Tonight, it just changed. You could see he got hold of those three players and he'd done something with them over the 2 days to go, this is what I want you to do. And what epitomised it in the first half was there was one time when Sangare moved away from his marker, played a through ball through the lines and found Gibbs-White on the half turn, out wide slightly, in a position I haven't seen him in on a half turn in that position for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, because he's been playing more or less as a central 10 up front with the striker, not in those positions to get on the half turn and run at the defence. That's where Gibbs-White is at his best, and that's where Sangare is at his best, to be able to find that player in that position. And it just unlocked that again. We saw it so much under Nuno, and we saw it briefly, but then it just seemed to be taken out of our system and the way we played. And tonight, I think what Pereira did was he realised that those three players were going to be pivotal to our performance. That is not difficult to do because we know how good those players are. There aren't many free teams who have got three midfielders that good, that quality, even in the Premier League. Right? We've got very good players in that position. And they just stepped up and with those tiny tweaks made all the difference. And it just gave us the platform to build and score those goals.
I'm normally so it's not the most pessimistic, but slightly pessimistic. But I just can't see Fenerbahce getting back into this tie, Thames. Can you? They picked up a load of suspensions as well for the second leg.
No, game over. I think they would have to come and find a way to score 4 goals at Forest, and I don't see that happening on the basis of the evidence tonight. What do they do in terms of team selection? Do they write it off and concentrate on their league form, which has been exceptional, or do they come to play and risk their weekend? There'll be tougher tests for us if we're going to progress towards the business end of this tournament. Let's not forget this tie is an inconvenience because of the manner in which we acquitted ourselves in Braga, but we've cruised through it. Our form to this point has been erratic. We've played poorly against worse sides than that. On paper, they were going to give us a stern test, and we've absolutely blown them away. So no, happy to pin my colours to the mast on this one. We're through the tie.
Yeah, I think so. I'll ask Lewis about that, and I'll ask him about Murillo's goal in 27 seconds. A quick word for the Trent Nav. Next game, as we all know, Forest versus Liverpool on Sunday. Get down there, enjoy all the build-up with Fodders. Pizza Kitchen's open, outdoor screens. It will be on TV because all the Sunday games are. So if you don't have a ticket, you can watch it at the Nav, and then afterwards they'll be showing Spurs versus Arsenal. Which will hopefully go our way, although I wouldn't bank on it after seeing that Wolves game last night. Post-match show as well with the Fun Boy 2, free entry, so just head down and enjoy the game. And thanks to those guys as ever for their support. 2 questions then, Lou, for you. First one, do you think the tie's over? And then secondly, just talk us through Murillo's goal. It's the goal we've been wanting to see him score for 3 years. He's been wanting to do it for 3 years, and now he finally has.
Yeah, I think if you look at the tie, you can never. These are good players, have had good careers, and they'll have to have a reaction. You look at kind of the status they've got in Turkey and the pressures that they would have had after the game tonight. So they'll probably have to come with a reaction. I think it's very clever. We go and be professional. We go and kind of see out their first little bit of a push, and I think then it become quite an easy night. I don't think you can ever say never, but you know what I mean. I think we've put ourselves in a really, really good place, but we have to go and be professional. Whatever team the manager decides to pick on next week.
And Murillo's goal?
Yeah, listen, I think Fletch said it in the commentary. He's been kind of trying to do that for a very long time, and I think it just shows maybe where his head's at. I think in this kind of last 2 or 3 months, he's probably, there's injuries in there, but he's probably not quite been at the levels he has been, and various reasons that could have been. But I think tonight, you look at it, he breaks the first little bit up in terms of the central area. And I think you have to look at before the kind of strike, he bounces, Kante comes and has a nick, he bounces off him, he goes and then takes another touch, another kind of defender comes across. And again, so showing that upper body strength that we know he's got. And actually, if you look at the strike, he doesn't actually catch it very clean. You know, he's got fantastic technique, but he actually, sometimes when you run it at that speed, you kind of try and slow down, and you try and be ready to set yourself, but sometimes it doesn't quite work. And he's kind of caught it on the end of his toe, which again, he won't be complaining. He's got a little nick off the defender, and again, found the bottom corner. So listen, I think it's really good for him, and hopefully with this managerial change, he has a reaction to it, and he kind of gets back that confidence in the player we know he can be. But yeah, for him personally, for scoring that goal, I think it will be very good for him tonight.
Is he wise there not to take another touch, Lewis? Just get the strike away and try and catch Edison before he's set?
I think he's always been that kind of player when he gets in that area. You know, he's got really good technique with his left foot, and you know what he wanted to do once he kind of beat that second press. But again, it's all about trying to get it on target, make the keeper work. Sometimes you get a little bit of good fortune, you get a little bit of nick, but maybe took it away from Edison. So yeah, listen, I think all in all, it was a really good goal from him. And again, he's earned that look from kind of the start of the build-up.
Can you see the comments, Mark, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I did have a quick look. People saying I've got a poker face.
Speculating on your happy face.
I'm just not getting carried away. I think that it's the right thing to do. I think it's, you know, there was the opposition were poor tonight, but there was a lot of positive things to take from it. So I'm feeling like we hopefully have turned the corner, but it's very early days. I mean, Deitch won his first game, of course, but then he followed it up with a miserable performance at Bournemouth. I don't think that Pereira will follow it up with a miserable performance. I think hopefully what we saw tonight was the beginning, I think, of the players playing with more freedom and showing more quality, and that will hopefully be enough to get us out of it. But I'm just not getting carried away yet.
Would you win I've seen one episode of The Traitors. I barely know how it works. Would you win it, Mark?
Oh, God, I'd love to be on The Traitors. God, I would.
Are you backing yourself?
What, if I was on it?
Yeah.
I would. I think I'd have to, yeah. I have thought about applying, actually, because obviously with the gaming background and stuff, they often have people from the games industry on there. Because
let's find out. Let Davies book a country house. I'll bring some beers. Book a storm. Mark can fix our FPL teams, and we'll have a few murders at night.
Exactly. When Mark was talking there, Thames, he said about 3 players, that triangle that can be difference makers. I would probably, personally, I'd throw Murillo in as the 4th. under Pereira, if he goes to a back three even more, but even in a back two, as that real elite Premier League defender who can bring the ball out, who can break lines. Pereira seems obsessed with breaking lines. If we can get a tune out of Murillo in the Premier League, then that's going to be absolutely massive, isn't it?
Well, I hope we don't change the formation. I hope we do stick with the back four, and specifically I hope we stick with this back four, because I think they complement each other. There's an understanding and a way of playing. Nico Williams had 97% pass completion tonight, and that shouldn't be balked at. That's not outrageous distribution. He's feeding his winger and he's playing simple balls into central midfield, but it's important. And there's two fullbacks that we can trust to distribute. There's Murillo, who just seems to know when to fly out of the line, makes an impact. He can still recover if he doesn't affect the ball. And that allows Milenkovic to be a little bit more neutral, to hang a bit deeper, to be the one that plays the most structured game of the four. But when all four of them are together, there's just a confidence and a feeling, even the absence of Matt Sells, that's our base, that's our solidity. So I was concerned about Pereira trying to shoehorn in a three centre halves. I don't think we have the depth for that. I wouldn't like to see Nico or Oleraina repurposed or a midfielder repurposed. I really, really hope tactically he sticks with this back four, because that's how we're going to get the best out of these players. He's giving that the first opportunity. If it had gone awry tonight, I think he could have chased a change and tried to force a new system, which for me doesn't work with the personnel we have, having watched Forest as often as we have over the last few years. So for me, stick with the back four, and more specifically, stick with this back four whenever you can.
You agree with that? You were nodding along, Lewis. So you think if we see a back three, it's because something's gone wrong and we're struggling for results then?
Yeah, I think again, there's obviously a brief conversation about that's potentially what the new manager would like to do. I think it'll be very risky to do that straight away, especially in a kind of European game away from home where you haven't quite worked on it. But again, I think we look really solid tonight. Again, back on Murillo. I think when you look at him in terms of Nuno, especially, he's always a player that is going to play kind of on the line. He is going to risk stuff at times, and sometimes you're going to get caught. I think we had a situation, I think it was Everton at home, where we had that little bit and they've broken. That's something that comes with it. I think every manager kind of probably before Dyche has allowed him to kind of play on that edge, but they know the value he has when he gets them stuff right, and having a ball playing centre half that goes and steps in and tries and breaks lines. I think under Sean, I don't think maybe that was encouraged a lot as the other managers, and maybe that had an impact on him, because that's how he plays the game. And you look at him tonight, hopefully he's on that front foot, hopefully he looks at it, and he will learn as he gets older, more mature, that he has to take care in certain times and he can't put it at risk every time. But I think that's a part of his game, again, for kind of 2 years, why we all thought a lot of teams in the Premier League and in Europe was looking at him. So I think we have to look and think what he brings us. I think with maturity and coaching and understanding, realise that there's times and there's certain places that he can't quite do it, but probably not take it away and take it out of his game.
I think I don't want to dwell on the former manager too much, but obviously there's a lot of people in the chat, a lot of people online, Mark, who are saying, this is what happens when you change the manager, when you let them play. Is it way too early to say this doesn't reflect well on Sean Dyche, or are you just leaping straight in there with that?
It's hard. I mean, either Pereira's done miracles in 2 days, or just the change and the removal of whatever was oppressing the players has had the difference. Always a bit of both, but something, obviously it was transformative tonight, wasn't it? I mean, what we saw in the first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, this looks like a different team. So something has changed in the players' minds to allow them to show them that quality that they showed today. And it's hard to say that that's Pereira coming in 2 days doing that. There might be a little bit of that. We've talked about how he's made some little tweaks, but I think mainly it's just, I can play without fear now. I don't feel restricted. I don't feel that I've just got to focus on the basics. I can actually let my quality show. And yes, if I'm going to lose the ball or play a misplaced pass, that's okay, because that's you have to put the ball at risk to create chances and create good chances. And I think under Dyche, he didn't encourage that enough. And the longer it went on, we saw that getting worse and worse and worse. And all the data showed it dropping off, the quality of chances, big chances. I mean, we had several big chances tonight. I mean, Gibbs-White in the first half had that header that went straight to Ederson. That was a big chance. And we created that. Crucially, we created that when we were 1-0 up. And I'll look at the Crystal Palace game where we went 1-0 up and we were playing okay, but then we just sat back and let Palace back in. And lo and behold, Palace got the corner and got the equaliser by Nico's handball. Tonight, we went 1-0 up and nothing changed. We was just like, well, we're keeping the same mindset. We're going for another goal. And that we wouldn't have done that under Davies. We just wouldn't have done. We'd have naturally just started to regress and sit back and try and play on the counter. And Pereira's just come in and just lifted that and allowed the players to play more freedom, more expression, more bravery, no fear. And when you do that, the quality of what we've got starts to show. And unfortunately, I think Davies and his system dulled that to the point where it started to affect results. It certainly affected performance.
Shout out to James Rowe and anyone else that's still in the ground. I know that I think fans have been kept behind for 2 hours, so it's great if James is watching this. I hope we've jumped on some Wi-Fi because I think the data out there might be as expensive as the jacked up beer prices that I've seen. But
I saw the queues for the food as well. Steve put. Did you see the queues?
Yeah, kept him for 4 hours, weren't they, before the match or something? Crazy. Picking up on what Mark said there, Thames, it's interesting because Nuno's system was often go 1-0 up, shut it down, see out a 1-0. Players seem to love that. For whatever reason, they don't think they seem to love that under the former manager. Is it just, I don't know what, is it just as simple as, let's go play, lads, show me what you can do, you've had an awful season?
I hope Lewis agrees with this. There's certain things that can be coached and certain things where you can overcoach. And I think if you're burdening Morgan Gibbs-White and Elliot Anderson with 10 tactical nuances and positional things for them to be aware of, you're taking so much away from their game. So let's explain it like this. Was Sean Dyche in communicating defensive patterns and where they should be, impacting how often players got the ball, what they were free to do with it, and the natural strengths that they're able to use. I think that's probably the case. And over the next 5 or 6 games, I hope we see that pattern emerge where the same players in ostensibly the same shape are able to have so much more impact on the game because they've just got that little bit more freedom to do what comes natural, to follow their instincts, to play heads up football, and do that comes naturally. I think you give a lesser brief to experienced Premier League players, especially when they've have such familiarity and have had such good times as this group have, rather than a team of up and coming youngsters and lone players. That for example, the team that Steve Cooper was coaching through the Championship needs to be far more heavily coached than this set now. So yeah, I hope that he's recognised that a little bit less structure is required, a little bit more freedom is needed, and that's what I've seen today based on 90 minutes. Good players being empowered to do what comes naturally to them.
Yeah, you've been on both sides of that conversation, Lou, as a player and a manager, especially a player of what you were trying to do on the pitch. What do you think about what Temp says?
Yeah, I think he's spot on. I think if you look at it, I think when you now I'm on the other side of kind of being a manager and being a coach, I think when you ever trying to relay a message, I think it's just how can you simplify that as much as possible, both defensively, both with the ball. How can you make it very easy for players to understand what you want in possession and out of possession, but also then kind of in that top end, that top area, go and allow your players to express themselves, to enjoy it, play with a smile on your face, but understand that doesn't mean to kind of be completely off the cuff with no kind of thought process behind it and be loose and be reckless with it. But you're giving them a structure, to play from, but allow their ability to come through. And I think that's what I was trying to say at the start of the show. He hasn't had a lot of time to obviously really detail what he wants to do, especially visually on the training pitch. But a lot of the information will come how he's talking to players, how his staff are also talking to players, what the message is trying to create, what's the positivity, is it front foot. I just felt that when you especially look at the wingers tonight, both of them, especially Hutchinson that first half, it was just direct. Every opportunity they got the ball, it was how can I take on my fullback? And that's what you want, and that's what you want to see. And I think hopefully that's now a pattern what we're going to see more. Again, this is the first game, so we can't get too carried away. We have to hopefully this is a sign of what's going to come next. But I think football, like we all say, we all have our own opinions. We all love to discuss it, but it's very simple. And can you have a structure, what is simplified, which the players will understand? And players in that top end of the pitch, can you allow them to go and express themselves and show the quality and the ability that they have?
Over 1,000 people with us, which is fantastic. Do hit like if you haven't already. Would really appreciate that. Just one other player I wanted to touch on, Mark, before we start wrapping up this game and talking a little bit about Liverpool. I do kind of feel like Igor Jesus might be pretty essential to Pereira. A goal and an assist today. Luka came on and probably isn't necessarily the kind of player, I don't know, maybe I'm presumptuous there, that will thrive in this system. I wonder if Taiwo might end up being ahead of him, but I don't think he's in the Europa squad off the top of my head. But Igor Jesus showed up well tonight, didn't he? Do you think that Pereira might be able to get that little 1 or 2% extra out of him that will make him score a bit more in the Premier League?
I hope so. If I had any, I still have concerns, but the one big concern I have got is, do we have that player who can get us enough goals between now and the end of the season to keep us up? I don't know if that's Igor Jesus. I look at the teams around us, Calvert-Lewin, Bowen, Somerville. I think the teams around us have got more obvious candidates who can do that. We don't have that player unless Igor Jesus can become that player, and potentially he could. So I still think that's the one weakness we've got. I think our back four is fantastic. I think the free midfield is fantastic. We've got lots of options out wide. I think it's just that central striker there's still some question marks over. And we haven't really got proven back up from the bench unless Taiwo's reborn and can do some of the things he did in his first couple of seasons, which is not out of the question because he's surprised us a few times. So that's the one position I'm still concerned about. So we're going to have to find goals from around the team. But I think Pereira will do that. I think Pereira will allow us to play with freedom where we will get more goals from around the team. I think that Hutchinson, Callum, Morgan Gibbs-White, Anderson even might chip in with goals if we can play with that freedom and movement and fluidity that we saw at times tonight. So I'm not as worried as I would be if we didn't put on that kind of performance. And hopefully we see that again against Liverpool. But yes, there's pressure on Igor Jesus, but I think he could step up. And Pereira's obviously going to be working at that. He'll know he needs a source of goals. Strand Larsen was key to him in that season at Wolves. I don't know if Jesus can match that kind of output, but he'll be working with him to try and build him up and give him the confidence to try and get us goals.
Have a quick think about the man of the match or players that stood out for you just to wrap this game up, chaps, while I just give a word of thanks for Home Move Estate Agents. Interesting property. It is, where is it? Queen's Road, Nottingham. Sorry, I'm scrolling through all my notes. It's 130k. It's on the market for 2-bed, 2-bath, two bathrooms. The interesting thing about it is it's only for people who want to buy it for investment, exclusively available for investors seeking to expand their portfolios. Lewis, rental income currently generating £1,150 per capita month with lots of demand in the area. And if you're watching on screen, you'll see it's got an open plan lounge, dining, kitchen area, perfect for tenants. And if you're not watching on screen and you want to check it out, click the link in the description and you can see everything that Home Move have got for you. Right, Thames, kick us off. Who was your man of the match or a couple of candidates that really stood out for you tonight?
I'm giving man of the match to Morgan. I think that he was at the heart of everything. He did really well for that near post flick for the Jesus goal. He managed to disrupt two defenders at the front stick and get his head to it, and that was a crucial moment in the game, which killed it effectively, and gave us the ability to close it out and make those changes late on. Honourable mention to Murillo, who just seemed back to the Murillo that we know. He's been missing a little bit in recent times, potentially curtailed by the old system, but he looked reborn tonight. And he's finally scored that goal that he'd been threatening for so long, as Lewis described earlier. But on balance, I'm giving man of the match to Morgan Gibbs-White.
I think I'm going to give it to Sangare. I thought he set a really good tone, really positive from the start. I thought him and Anderson were really great in midfield. I know Kante's a fading force, but he's obviously been elite, and Guendouzi's younger and a good player. But yeah, Sangare for me. What about you, Mark?
I'd like to give it to Murillo just because of that goal, and it was so crucial that the first goal came, and he stepped up and provided it. He was the player who made the difference, as Sean Dyche might say. But I think that I'm going to give it to Sangare as well because he played with discipline and he gave us that platform for the whole game. I think that the composure he shows on the ball, his quick feet, his ability to find a pass was really crucial to us. He also bullied them, I thought, for periods of that first half. I thought he really imposed himself physically, which is what I've wanted him to see since he arrived at the club. So, you know, I think we've got a player now, and hopefully Pereira gets that a little bit more out of him. I think Dyche did very well to get him fit and get him able to go box to box and be part of the pressing game. I think Pereira might use him differently, more in a role we saw tonight, where his quality on the ball and his ability to link play and pass between the lines could be the key. So, yeah, I'm going to go Sangare because I think he deserved it tonight.
Lewis, who stood out for you?
He's thinking about it.
I think he's frozen. Well, fair enough. We'll come back to Lou if his Wi-Fi clears out. A few people mentioning the ref in the chat as well, who did have a good game in the face of some pretty a bit mad those Fenerbahce players at times, just screaming at the ref for handballs.
The manager as well.
And the manager, yeah, he set the tone there.
Yeah, he did. Terrible. He looked like he hadn't coached them either as well. Can you hear us all right, Lou? You just disappeared for a minute. Can you hear us all right, Lewis?
Yep, got you, yep.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Who stood out for you tonight? Who was your man of the match?
He's frozen in a really bad moment there.
I know.
Do you think he's pranking us? His Wi-Fi's fine. He's just really still.
Yeah, listen, we've had a lot of conversations about Sangare throughout since he's come. There's a lot of things that I've said, but I think you have to give him a lot of credit tonight. I think he has.
What's going on? I'm going to have to edit this now. Afterwards, he's gone. If he had to back in, he said Sangare was good.
I think he's going Sangare. Yeah,
I think he's gone Sangare. Hopefully, he'll add back in. If not, then all fine. Let's finish up just by talking about the Liverpool game just quickly. At the back of my mind, I just can't believe we're going to get such an easy game, and Liverpool are going to be so much better. I suppose, though, Temps, even though Liverpool will be better, you go into this game with optimism, believing that we can get at least a point, and if not, win the game, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what that result does. We go into Sunday with optimism, and we go into next Thursday with a sold-out ground, and it could have been oh so different, and we could have been debating the manager. We've mentioned him in passing, but ultimately we've celebrated what he's done to the players. So I think, look, let's get back to this battle between us and West Ham for that third relegation spot, because I still believe it's a two-horse race, despite me getting slightly carried away at the start of this. Whoever gets that result against the Head first gives themselves a huge advantage. If we can pull off a home win, even a point, and see West Ham lose in the next round of matches, that's a massive positive. And I think we've got some transparency now on what's going to happen. He's going to pick the same team again, and he's going to manage tiredness through changes rather than trying to be too clever and manage resources through multiple games. Every manager of Forest this season has probably observed the same thing, that there's a bit of a gulf between our best 11 and the players that are introduced outside of that. But they've managed it through rotation rather than dealing with the tiredness and the data they have access to when it happens. So I think already we've got a clear, immediate plan. We've got players who, whilst tired from all this travel, will have a degree of confidence and a feel-good factor going into this one. So, yeah, I'm really buoyed by it. I expect to see an unchanged 11, and I've got far more faith than I did 24 hours ago that we can take something from the game.
Just same question, Lewis, about how you see this Liverpool game. Quick turnaround for us now from Turkey to Sunday, but also just the relegation battle in general, because I don't think we've had your thoughts on it. West Ham down there, Spurs down there. You go up as far as maybe Palace, Brighton, I would say. But how are you seeing the whole picture at the bottom of the table?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams around there that are picking up momentum. West Ham look like they've turned the corner a little bit, and they've got an interesting game on. I think it's Saturday evening against Bournemouth. So that'll be interesting seeing what happens there. But I think again we can take the positivity from tonight and take it into Sunday, which will be a difficult game. But again, Liverpool aren't the same team that have been over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. So again, can we take all the positivities that we had tonight, that front foot kind of action, and trying to go at them? And it's like not get too carried away from tonight. It showed great signs, but it's still early days, and it's about making sure, even though we want to be a success in this competition, the bread and butter is the Premier League, and we want to try and get points in that.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the West Ham factor, Mark. They've got Bournemouth before us, which could really impact our emotions around it. And as great as tonight was, I would trade a win tonight for a win over Liverpool personally. But yeah, how are you feeling about Sunday's game?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think under Sean Dyche, I think we know exactly what to expect from the game, whereas under Pereira, we probably don't. I think, you know, Gibbs-White talked a lot about post-match. He talked a lot about identity, and he said that we played with a real identity. And I think what Pereira said pre-match was that he's going to go into every game in a positive mindset, and we're going to try and go out and win the game. So I don't think we're going to be low block trying to counter. I think we'll try and maybe not go toe to toe, but we'll certainly play with a mindset of we want to win this game. We're at home. We're going to impose our game on you rather than sit back and let them dominate. So I don't know how that will go. I think we've alluded to the fact that there'll be some games where Pereira's tactics will work better than others. I think against teams like Fulham at home, Brighton away, I think we've got opportunity to win those games now. Whereas against the better teams, maybe we'll get caught out and they'll pick us off. But let's see. I go forward with positivity in that I think we'll give them a game. I think we'll challenge them. I think that if they do beat us, they'll come off the pitch knowing that they were in a game against us. I don't think they'll toss us aside by any means. So I'm really optimistic we can get something from it. I think we can cause them a lot of problems. They've got vulnerabilities. They're not at their best by any means, either going forward or at the back. So there's opportunity, and I think Pereira will be looking forward to it, and the players will be looking forward to it after tonight.
Yeah. Crowd will be, as they could have been tonight, Lewis. Crowd could be a factor on Sunday as well. With fans going there excited for this game. Liverpool, top size, but they're not what they were last season. So fans can influence it, can they?
Yeah, I think the fans can always influence games at the City Ground. We know how special the fan base can be, and when that place is rocking, it's definitely makes a difference to the team. But I think it would be nice to going into the stadium. I think over probably the last 2 or 3 games, there's been a bit of a kind of mull around, and I think you look at especially the Wolves game and you just think there's a lot of negativity, and so I think that would be nice. I think we're nice for the players, but also as a fan base, they're going in off the back of tonight and that positive feel again. And like I say, look forward to it. Look forward to see what the new manager, again, how he's going to set up. Potentially they're going to keep the same team, or he's going to look at something different. But yeah, I think Liverpool, looking at it, especially tonight, where they are and how their season's been, they won't be kind of travelling thinking, yeah, this is going to be an easy day. And they'll be looking, thinking, right, we've got to be right at it, because, again, Nottingham Forest desperately need points. They need points to kind of make this gap and to push away from the relegation zone.
Yeah, and one of the takeaway from tonight, Temps, I had, or going into this game, I think I said it on the preview show, I was worried that if we did drop into the bottom 3, we might not climb out. But I think tonight, even if we lose to Liverpool, tonight has hopefully shown me that there's quite enough quality in this squad that if West Ham beat Bournemouth, we lose to Liverpool, that gap 0. It's very much game on with 11 games to go, no matter what happens.
Yeah, well, I think, look, tonight's made us change our mind about this competition, right? We're all very excited pre-season, bought the shirts, booked the flights, booked the hotels, got right amongst it. Then we watched some of the home games. It was low quality. We were turned over by Midfield and found ourselves thinking this is an awful distraction. Imagine if we were going into this Liverpool game, having not played since the last match, and just still wondering what this guy's all about, what impact he can have on the team. I think now it's having a positive impact. And if we can get deep into the final stages of this and survive in the Premier League, then these games are going to be extremely useful for Pereira in the manner that he uses them to set up for Premier League fixtures. So I've been on both sides of the coin with the Europa League. Is it a good thing for us? Is it a distraction? Is it an opportunity? And tonight, it's been a proving ground, a training ground for a far more important game at the weekend. But the two things can influence each other. Pick up our form in the league, feel good about these European ties, do well in the week in Europe, feel good going into the weekend. And it's a bit of a lazy thing to say, but surely, Lewis, you feel a bit less tired when you're coming off the back of a midweek win rather than trudging back with a dead tie, knowing that you've just got to get your rest, get back amongst it and get ready for Sunday. So, yeah, excited about both competitions again off the back of what I've seen tonight. I feel good in this moment, and hopefully we can compound that on Sunday.
Is that true, Lou? A Tuesday night trip back from, what's the furthest north? When you would have played Sunderland or Middlesbrough, and then you've got a Saturday away in Cardiff. It might not feel quite as bad if you've won that Tuesday night game.
Yeah, but it's like everything. When you win, it kind of papers over everything, doesn't it? And you have that mindset and that mentality. When your kind of result doesn't go your way, there's a lot of other things that you start to think about. But again, from a fan base, but also from players, definitely. When you win and you get that performance, it's now really looking forward to Sunday. What they know is going to be definitely a good atmosphere. A big football club coming to kind of the City ground, so bring it on.
Just let's finish on a real glass 3/4 full note, Mark, which isn't my way and not always your way. I suppose the dream is we win enough games to really attack Europe now. If we win enough games in the Premier League that we can really, really dream of Istanbul in the final. I know it's still a very long way off. We can't get ahead of ourselves because anything can happen from one weekend to the next. But the dream scenario that we have to chase, and hopefully Pereira's giving the players this confidence that we win 2 or 3 games of Premier League football in the next 5 and then really go for it in Europe.
Yeah, that'd be lovely, of course. But I think I go back to what you said earlier. We'd swap the win tonight for winning the league. So for me, those league points are absolutely vital. And if we can get a gap between us and the team in 17th, whoever that might be, we give ourselves the possibility then of really attacking the Europa League. As it is, we've given ourselves the possibility of resting some players now ahead of Brighton. So that could set us up for a victory at Brighton. I just think with the managerial change, we've given ourselves a chance, and that was important. I think what tonight showed was the value of connection, communication, that relationship with the players. I think obviously for one reason or another, it had broken down between Sean Dyche and the players. Whoever's come in and just that change, just that new voice with a new message that obviously the players, according to Gibbs-White, have bought into as one. Has made the difference, and the quality was always there. It was there under Ange, it was there under Nuno, it was there under Dyche. But you've got to get it out of the players, and for one reason or another, that wasn't happening under Sean Dyche, and it got worse. And Pereira's going to come in, hopefully, get that quality to come to the fore again. And if it does, we can win at Brighton, we can beat Fulham at home, we can even beat Villa and Newcastle at home. We've got the players to do it. It's just we needed to make that change and unlock that, and hopefully. We're now seeing a recovery and the opportunity to climb the league and put some distance between us and West Ham. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's some tough games to come.
Just one last quick one for you, Lou. Do you think West Ham players might not have watched the game tonight, but will they have noted that result? And maybe they might have been thinking, Forest are going under a bit here and can't beat Wolves. They see it tonight and will they notice it, or will they not be asked at all?
I think they've got to take care of their own. They're in a lot of kind of trouble. They have to really have that kind of single-minded look and think about West Ham Football Club. Yeah, some of the players might have watched it and think, right, okay, that's a good performance. They maybe have got a bounce where potentially, if we get a bad result tonight, what does that do and affect the game at the weekend? So yeah, they potentially have looked at it and think, right, okay, that we didn't really expect that result. They maybe have got a bit of a lift, but I think they've got to take care of their games and trying to get points on the board like we have and other teams in and around that relegation zone.
Lovely stuff. If you enjoyed this, do us a favour. If you're one of the over 1,000 people with us, hit like, do hit subscribe, do consider membership to discuss who would win in the Traitors, or Patreon would be lovely as well, or a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Back tomorrow at 1 with Pete and Mikey, where we'll preview the Liverpool game in full. We'll have an opposition preview. We'll have a bonus podcast that was supposed to be out today, but I got stuck in traffic for 2 hours around what it's like following Forest in Europe. And then we'll have a post-match show on Sunday. Temps, anything you want to add quickly before we go or not?
No, thanks for the chat, fellas. Instinctively feel good off the back of what I've seen over 90 minutes. Let's see how it bears out over the next few weeks. And yeah, it's football, right? Just always look forward.
Lewis, any half-term hellish stories for you, or has life been more simple than getting stuck on the motorway for me?
No, I've been away from 52, 16 to 19-year-olds for a week, so it's been a needed rest. But no, really good result tonight. Happy to have joined the conversation. and look forward to Sunday.
Yeah, bring on Sunday. Mark, last word to you. Is there anything you want to add? Or good to go?
Just that I am and always have been an optimist.
I'll take your word for it.
You only get that if you watch The Traitors, really, and you don't. So you only
I don't know what that is. So it goes against your rep. Right. A good note to end on. Thanks to everyone who joined us tonight. Really appreciate your company. Hopefully we see you tomorrow, but if not, we shall see you soon.